Hey guys, what's going on? Happy Sunday. It's day 3 of the 245 days of popcorn. And tonight I thought it would be interesting to just go and read a little bit of poetry that I wrote while eating a little bit of cold brew coffee ice cream. Roll that beautiful bean footage. All right, so here I use Notion in order to document my stuff. I'll probably be covering this a lot more in future videos and stuff like that, just how I use it and the different ways that I utilize Notion. If you're interested in that, give me a like, leave me a comment down below how what kind of Notion content or stuff that might be interesting for you guys. Now, the first one I'm going to read, this one's called Goddess's Pet, and it's kind of the way that you can kind of feel when you're caught in love with somebody or in like those lust kind of cravings and stuff like that. I really like Shakespearean, that Old English and stuff like that. So you'll probably see that theme through a lot of my poetry. But here you go, Goddess's Pet. Think not, doth I, for the things I build, for thy goddess hath left a temple, no altars to be filled. What purpose of man, what are means without an end? Without ardent worship, all morals start to bend. Cast out are dreams with no promise of tomorrow, shadows left instead, knows only of sorrow. Beauty doth wasted on eyes who cannot see, dawning visions of a person he will never be. What art thou, ask of me, I beseech you to say. Nights grow cold and long, each orbit she's away. Sun doth rise, and moon doth set, but hollow a man, a goddess's pet. So that one, again, very emotional, very much about in the throes of wanting and stuff like that. A lot of this poetry is like poetry only hits me to write whenever I'm really in the throes of some deep stuff. So that's a pretty good one. Let's see. Let's do If I Dared. So If I Dared, this one is about challenging the way that people see you and think about you. If I dared. If I dared to be different, would you look at me the same? Would there be new demons, ones harder yet to tame? If I dared to be different, how much different could I be? How much could I change before I'm no longer me? If I dared to be different, could it ever soothe the pain? Could it give me a reason to look in the mirror again? If I dared to be different, would you even be able to tell? Would you notice the change, or would you change as well? If I dared to be different, I wouldn't be the man you love. I wouldn't be the same, the person you've known thereof. So this one is very, very personal for me about when you kind of get out of your 20s and into your 30s, you kind of realize all the ways that you sacrificed or you kind of tried to define yourself by the path that got you to where you're at. And I think a lot of people, or at least for myself personally, started to feel a little bit like trapped, and like the ways that people defined me were more real than how I saw myself. And so this kind of is that questioning of like, what if I dared to be different? What if I did differently? So this one's called Porcelain Doll. I am broken, beaten, and bruised, my porcelain cracked from how I was used. Though a smile was worn all the way through, my heart it shattered, feeling abused. Here lie my pieces, scattered around, as I, in a heap, lie on the ground, waiting for something, but never a sound, just more disappointments by the pound. My tears run dry, but always still there, just covered up with a blank, empty stare. There was a time when I felt I was fair, but think it now, I wouldn't dare. I am broken, beaten, and bruised, my porcelain cracked from how I was used. What's next for me now? I have to choose, but learn I shall from mistakes that ensued. So yeah, this is a powerful one, and I think there's probably I noticed there was a lot of women who tended to thumbs up and really resonate with this message. I know there's a lot of relationships out there where it feels, or is abusive. I won't even say feels. It is abusive, or it feels abusive, or feels like you're kind of like not being heard. And so this kind of resonates with that piece. And yeah, and hopefully that's what good poetry is all about, really, is kind of connecting to the artist or through some kind of like feeling, like raw feeling that you can't get through like regular dry text. It's like there's something else about these poems and how poetry kind of like gets to the heart of things. A lot of this came through the last couple of years, just trying to figure myself back out again. Just like so much questioning about my life and my path. And so a lot of this comes from that, where it's like I didn't know what I want and who I am anymore, and I've like lost a lot of that. And so a lot of these poems kind of reflect that weariness. So why is ice cream so good? Okay, so this one's called Puppet. I've become a puppet to everyone's demands, my life and direction in someone else's hands. I may have chose different if I had a chance. If I pulled the strings, I'd choose not to dance. So what then is left for my heart made of wood? To solemnly play my part, better make it good. So this one, there's like a little bit of a Pinocchio motif. Where I'm really poking at the fact that like a lot of us feel that like, again, society or our parents or people around us push us in a direction, and then our bosses and different people kind of marionette and tell us what to do from day to day, or you feel like your life and the people around you kind of are strings that pull you in different directions. So this is like very much like kind of talking about that, and my kind of thinking on it is just like, what's there left to do if you feel like you're being pulled in all these directions? Well, like, play the part, like solemnly like accept the seriousness of that and solemnly play your part, and make it good. Like, if you're gonna be a marionette pulled on the strings, you might as well make it a good show. So that's kind of what this guy's resonating with. All right, I'm gonna read this one, and then we'll end off on probably my favorite poem. Okay, so this one's called Conversation with God. I like this one a lot. This one's inspired by kind of Alan Watts and the whole feeling about like God and purpose and why we're here. So this kind of like broaches that. So this is like a conversation with God. Come now, my child, sit at my right hand. Ask me your questions. I'm at your command. What is our purpose? Why do we exist? That's the question atop of my list. It sat for a while and replied with a grin. So, you want a reason for a world full of sin? Yes, I shouted, it's humanity's deepest desire to know why life shines bright, but also burns like fire. The air hung still, and after a long pause, God retorted, I made this just because. That can't be it. That just can't be the answer. You're telling me on a whim you gave us cancer? God laughed with a bellow, as if it was a pun. Child, you take too serious what I made for fun. So this is again based off of an Alan Watts quote that man only suffers because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun. And I really try to kind of take this to heart. All right, I'm going to leave off on this is objectively my favorite poem. I gotta start over. I cannot fuck this poem up. Okay, it's fine. I'm not sad, you're sad. This is called When Fairies Cry. Again, a lot of this stuff is me processing through my own emotions and processing through things. I even made some custom artwork for this one, very much inspired off of Studio Ghibli, Howl's Moving Castle with this flame. And it's very much about a relationship, my relationship, and how passions can sometimes burn a little too brightly, and how they can kind of get in the way, and you can kind of end up overshadowing things that are important. And so I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I do. The dew drips off the lilies, the background filled with smoke, the fairy flying blindly as breathing makes her choke. She sees no beauty coughing as she tries to find the end, but more scorched earth and embers lie around every bend. She ascends to such great heights, with wings shimmering gold, but finds the heights are scary, and the air up here is cold. Looking down upon her land, the ground scattered with ash, the forests once thick lie barren, as the final trees burn and crash. This isn't what she wanted when she let the little flame out. He seemed kind and well-intentioned as he danced about. Such a shame for a flame to be trapped like she once was. So she blew a kiss, and with a hiss he grew just because. As the flame grew larger, as did his appetite in turn, he started devouring the scenery, her greenery did burn. Stop, she tried to say, as she covered her mouth to breathe. But alas, this flame was gluttonous, and its hunger would not cease. The flame grew into fire as he consumed the lands, not a tree or flower sacred, all victims to his hands. The fairy she flew behind, trying to stop this deed, but stubborn as the fire, it denied and continued to feed. Now here fly the fairy, with nothing but disgust in her heart, for the little flame she did blame for tearing her world apart. She landed on a charred stump that blackened her tiny feet, the weight of all this heavy as she curled up to weep. She let go, tears they flowed, and they ran down her face, trickling down her cheeks until they hit the ground with grace. The hungry fire's chewing, slowed to a grinding crawl, as he could see the fairy, soot-covered, teary-eyed, and all. Think not, did the fire, for his job was just to burn, but love for his Savior was greater than any other yearn. He could not save the plants, he had burned down all the trees, but underneath the ashes, he discovered a bunch of seeds. He mounted up the soot, nestled a seed in its core. The trees may all be gone, but he could plant some more. The piles he made were many, but to his despair, not a thing was growing, though he took so much care. By now a river formed, the fairy's tears were plenty. She still felt so alone, without her nature she's so empty. Through his toil he forgot to tell her he was sorry, to not fear or shed a tear, for she need not to worry. For when passion burns and turns the land black, only love and compassion has a chance to turn it back. Just then in the distance, by the river of her tears, a tiny sprout started growing, the first greenery in years. The flame jumped with excitement and called the fairy near. She pulled her heavy head up and wiped away a tear. Her anguish turned to excitement. She realized on sight that her forest would return, and it made her shine bright. Still mad at the flame, she locked him in his cage. "This is all your fault," she screamed at him with rage. The flame knew what he had done and accepted his fate. He watched the forest regrow through the bars in the grate. The fairy shined brighter with the coming of each day, for the memories of the wastelands were now far away. Some say they still find them chatting. The stump became their camp, a beautiful fairy in her forest, and a flame inside her lamp. So there you guys have it. Those are some of my poems that I like and have written over the years. What was your favorite? Let me know in the comments down below. And did you like this? Give it a like and give it a share if this is something you think somebody else would be interested in. This was day 3, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. 2, 4, 5. Out.